Hi, this is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team. I am super excited about our guest this morning. He's actually a repeat guest. We just can't stop talking about things and coming up with things that we want to share with you. You know, if you have not followed us for a while, you might not know this, but we are here to help you create sexy businesses for sexy lives. And I believe the amazing sauce that this next guest has will add to your life greatly. He's a best-selling author. He's done events all over the world. He's coached people. He's built 5 businesses. Very successful. He's also the founder, the creator of the Meditation Dojo. He's done like all of these things that I probably will get wrong if I keep talking. So I don't want to get them wrong. I'm going to ask him to help me. But welcome, Michael Atma, to the Sexy Business team.
Wow, thank you, Kim. And I'm excited to be on the Sexy Business team again. This is awesome.
Yes,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. Because the topic that we are going to talk about today, it kind of came from the last interview. We were talking privately afterwards because we both understand this topic very, very well, very personally. And we know that this is something that most people never talk about. They don't talk about this side of it. And our topic this morning is the sacrifice that no one wants to know about until they have to make it. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, look, it's a big topic. So as Kim mentioned, we were both having a chat around this topic of, just the sacrifices that people make in their lives and that we personally have made to get where we are and to achieve the things that we have achieved and also to become the person who we've become. And look, to kick that off, it's a massive topic, but really, when you talk sacrifice these days, things have changed a lot. And I know when I was learning, when I started studying personal development, I was going through a really, really tough time, as a lot of people do when they get started on a life path of change or transformation. Not many people get into this work because they just want to do it. But normally there's something there that triggers that desire or that need to want to grow and change and evolve and do things differently, be it think differently or just feel differently about who they are and move in new directions in their lives. But I look at the big sacrifice that I made when I first got started was I was considered to be quite weird by my friends. So I started studying personal development. I started doing these courses mainly because I was going through anxiety, having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep at night. And I really lost all my self-confidence. So they were big issues for me because I was quite successful in the job I had at the time, making a lot of money. But then that all just went away. All those security devices I had in my life, the safety nets, you might call it, the money, the friends, traveling a lot. I had all those things. And all of a sudden, overnight, they all disappeared. And then I decided the only way I could get through this was to figure out why I was so afraid all the time, why I was so anxious, why I couldn't sleep at night. My mind just wouldn't shut up. And at that time, the sacrifice I made was I could have gone back into a job, or I could have figured out, why is this happening? Where's it come from? And how do I fix this? How do I fix this within myself? Not how do I band-aid it by getting another job and changing things outside. I'd never experienced such intense fear. And that the sacrifice there that I made right then and there was I wanted to understand where this fear came from and how it was controlling my mind, my emotions, and my quality of life. It was ruining my life. And I was helpless. I felt completely helpless and vulnerable. And I had no idea of how to change that. So I figured if this could happen to me now, it just makes sense it's going to happen again if I don't understand the mechanics of what's going on inside my mind and body. I needed to know because I was so afraid all the time. And so I made the sacrifice then and there. For me, it wasn't about getting a job and making money and making my life easier. I decided to go the other way, which I want to work this stuff out. I need to know the answer to these questions. And that's when I started delving into learning about me. And when I started doing that, and I did all these courses and workshops and seminars, and eventually I was traveling the world learning from some amazing people, amazing teachers, and some really crap ones too. So there was some shockers, I got to say. But I learned from some very amazing geniuses in the world in their level of their field of expertise, such as self-love, such as meditation, such as I even went to millionaire mentor conferences. And then I went to a whole bunch of other things around health and learning about subconscious programming and unconscious and dreams and all this stuff. I started learning. But the sacrifice was I had to walk away from my old life. And everybody that I knew, suddenly I was on the outer. Suddenly they looked at me and I knew that there was judgment coming from them, the way they spoke. My parents thought I was crazy. They thought I'd gone to a cult and I was lost in this world now. And how could they rescue me and save me? So everybody I knew disappeared from my life. And I was pretty much on my own. And I've got to tell you, that was quite scary because I had nothing to fall back on, nothing and nobody to fall back on. And so I had no other choice but to keep moving forward and exploring the path that I'd started. And I got to say, it was scary. And there was a lot of times where I felt completely lost and abandoned and alone and frightened. But I was committed. I was committed to getting to know me. So I'll talk a little more about that later, but I'll throw it back over to you now, Kim, because that's kind of one level of sacrifice that, was my first experience around feeling complete, that I just had nothing and nobody that I could turn to.
Well, I will say I experienced the same because no one in my world had ever done what I was trying to do. And they were cheerleading me to, get a good job, go to work for someone else, do the things that they wanted me to do because they wanted to protect me and they wanted me to be safe. But safe is not always really safe, and for me, I was never fulfilled. I laugh because we're in a group together and we talk about being totally unemployable. And I think that is really me because I march to the beat of my own drum and I do things differently. And that doesn't make them wrong. For a long time, I thought I was, like you said, just weird. Nobody else was doing anything like what I was trying to do. And it's been wonderful to get past that. But during that process of building businesses and trying to figure out, about me, because again, I think it does start with us. It was all the things you just described. I mean, it was scary and it was very lonely because no one even knew what you were talking about. Like I would say, start getting excited about something and they're just like, what are you even talking about? And so I had to leave behind, and behind's not really a good word, but I had to move away from a lot of the people that I have known, my whole life to be able to break the drama. That's one of the things I had to break, from the drama of my choices. And my choices have not always been good. I will say that too. It's not like I, woke up and made all these, stellar choices. I made a lot of bad choices along the way, but I wouldn't trade my life today for anything before now because it is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And when I think about this whole idea of letting go of our past and moving towards what, in a sense, we're being called forth to grow into, to become, I don't know when it happened. I have a slight kind of memory. I was around about 10 years of age, but I knew that I was here to do something different. I actually didn't feel like I fitted in with society at all. My parents were just like these aliens to me. They're like, what the? It's like I had no idea where they were coming from because their relationship was really intense and not happy. And so they just seemed really crazy people to me. And my dad kept saying, hey, you got to get a job. You need to settle down, work hard, get a job. and just be happy that that's what you have. And he kept saying to me, when are you getting a job? I was 15, when are you getting a job? When are you getting a job? So I'm getting bombarded with this, mindset, and school, our education system's the same thing. It's like a mechanism to prepare you to get a job. I'm not judging that good or bad, but I just knew there was something else for me, and I would never have become the entrepreneur that I am today and built several businesses. I failed at a couple of businesses. I'm not saying I got it right every time, but it's a growth process, because I had to learn how to become a business person first before I could become an entrepreneur. So first of all, you start off as an employee, and that gives you an employee mindset. You get paid money for your time. You're trading money for time. But to get out of that mindset is a big leap, because you go from getting paid money for your time to now you're in charge of your time, but you're not necessarily making money. Unless you've got the skills of sales and marketing and converting and growing a business. So you kind of got to learn those too, because they're not necessarily taught to you at school. But the other level of sacrifice that comes around all the things that we do as we're growing up and the decisions we're making, the other sacrifice that comes is we're really here. And as I mentioned, I kind of had a feeling at 10 I was here to do something different. And that was my authentic self. I call it the inner self. That was, some people can call it something else. They might call it, God talking to them or something, God reaching out and saying, hey, you're here for something really special. It doesn't matter. But I just felt something inside me, and I never, ever kind of lost that feeling. And so for me, then the opportunity was to continue to grow, was to continue to move in new directions, so that I could not do what everyone else is doing and find my way in the world, whatever that might look like. So, that happened to me at a very young age, and I followed that. I had the courage and I had the awareness to kind of not put that aside and bury it. I did bury it for a while, for like 7 years, I think. But then it was so strong, I had to keep following that. That's why I went on the journey that I went on, because I had an awareness. That's the direction I had to move in.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I haven't thought about this in a while, but when I was a teenager, I had a recurring dream that I was here to change the world, and that I was sending something out all over the world, like packages and information. I mean, it was something that was, we didn't even have the internet. It wasn't even in, probably a twinkle yet. It probably wasn't even, because that's been a very long time ago. But the truth is, that's when I started looking for what I'm doing today, because my biggest thing I do is serve other people. And what a great thing to wake up every morning and know that you have people to serve. You have the ability to give them something that they need, just like this interview. The fact that we can bring our followers such amazing people and their stories, so that people will follow their dreams. Because this really isn't about, us saying, well, we made it, we're successful. This is how hard it is, and it's worth it. It's something that we weren't told. I don't think you were ever told that the sacrifice would be great to get to where you wanted. And I never was told. Some of the other sacrifices you and I both have made are, you lose your anonymity. You lose your being able to just go places and do whatever you want sometimes, because people recognize you and they draw on you. And so, that's another thing that I wasn't aware of. I never imagined that.
Yeah. As you were talking, it's like, if I was to say to people now, or if I was to say to you, those of you that are listening right now, really what it boils down to is that you have a feeling inside you that you're not fulfilled. Your life isn't the way that it's meant to be. Some part of you will be feeling there's something missing. That's kind of the first trigger point. That's kind of the first awareness that you start to get. And for some of you, you may have had that for quite a while. And it's kind of like this gnawing feeling inside you, this knowing that, hey, what are you doing? You don't have forever. When are you going to take that step in the direction that that's kind of bubbling up inside of you, that wants to be expressed, that wants to be explored, whatever that might be. For some people, it's different for everybody. Not everybody has to be a successful business person. For some people, their calling is to be just purely in service to others. And that could be a nurse, that could be a teacher, that could be a doctor, that could be a librarian. It could be just to be in service in a particular role. So there's no right or wrong way or sacrifice that we need to make to do what's in our heart. It's just that we need to be listening. And when we hear that call, when we hear our heart speaking to us, it's kind of like the way you can tell what direction to move in is you just start looking at the signs that start appearing, that you start to feel drawn to. There can be words that are spoken from people, repeated words. It can be signs, literally signs that you see as you're driving down the road. It can be books that you see and read, and this message keeps coming to you. It could be you want to go and learn to be a counselor. It could be you want to go and learn, I don't know, anything at all, to dance, to sing, to do art, something that your creative, I call it your inner creative genius, that creative spark inside you wants to come out and play. And so when we talk about sacrifice, what we're really sacrificing, and I can't say this I can't talk for everybody, but what I really sacrificed was an ordinary life, or what you would call a normal life. However you define normal, the house, the white picket fence, blah, 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 job, retire, that kind of thing. That never excited me, and I kind of didn't see the point in it, to be honest. There was like, no. I want to live fully, freely, wildly, abundantly, joyfully, blissfully, lovingly, and from the depths of who I am, while I can, while I have all this energy, and I just want to give. I want to learn, and that's one of my biggest drivers is I need to learn. I actually call myself a seeker of truth. Now, you can define truth however you want. Truth just being, I want to find the highest and deepest truth of anything. Love, joy, happiness. What are the highest and deepest truths of those things? So I had to sacrifice everybody else's perception around these ideas of love, joy, money, abundance, all these concepts that I think most of us live automatically within, robotically almost, by just accepting the way things are. And I've figured out really early on, if I just accept what my father says about how my life should be, my life's going to be shit. It's just going to be the worst. And I'll be miserable. I tried jobs. I was miserable. I'm the worst employee on the planet because even I can't stand me when I have a job. And I hate being told what to do. So not a good formula. Talk about unemployable. Oh, my goodness. Seriously. So, anyway, I'll throw it back to you now, Kim.
I love it. No, I think that's one of the things that's so, fun about being with a group of wild business owners is the fact that we are not a group that is good at just following the rules or staying in the box. I don't stay in the box. I know you don't stay in the box. We don't even like the box. I mean, and we always go back and try to get people out of the box, But, some of the things I do want to touch on, just because there's a lot of people that follow us that are, they're established in their business, they're CEOs, or they're, owners of the company. But then we also have some that are coming into business. They are entrepreneurial, but they're just learning a lot of the things. And I don't want to leave anyone out of this topic, because I think what we talked about is basically the beginnings. It's difficult because you have to leave people behind that you don't want to leave behind. And you have to leave thoughts that you have behind that you're comfortable with. And you have to change your belief system. I mean, it's a paradigm shift in most instances, not just a, little tweak here and a little tweak there. It's pretty big steps that you have to come to get to know yourself so that you can be what you're called to be. Those are some of them. But also, when you get to that place of You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're learning and you're evolving still. There's also another place of sacrifice in there, and that is people stop telling you the truth. They get kind of what I would call starstruck, and so they just become yes men and tell you what you want to hear, and that's very dangerous. And another part that happens is people people have a misperception of you, that you must not be like them because you're doing something bigger than what they're doing right now. But the truth is, we're just maybe farther on that same path.
Yeah, what you're talking there is people that tend to put you on a pedestal or look up to you. Yeah. And look, anybody that's in that position, I just encourage you to kick the pedestal out from underneath yourself and show people how human and real you are. Because one of the key strengths for anybody, and there's sacrifice in this too, if you really want to become the best leader, the best entrepreneur, the best CEO, whatever it might be, really the sacrifice there is you've got to be seen as being human, not this unattainable Queen of England kind of character that's, beyond, that needs to be bowed to and honored and worshipped. If people are doing that to you, I promise and guarantee they're eventually going to want to kill you.
Absolutely.
It's just that simple, because whoever's at the top, and if there's people that perceive that they're down below, there's only one way to go, and that's come tumbling down off the pedestal or get thrown off it.
That's right.
Because history shows us that, that this is not even personal development. We can just look at history to see this fact. Oh, who's at the top? Great. We want that. That just because they're there, we'll go for them. No other reason. So and the sacrifice that you can make there is just to keep yourself really real and authentic. And also that you're human, that you do make mistakes, that you aren't perfect. And anyone that tries and tells you that they are superior, that they're flawless, that they've got their act together and everything about their life is perfect, I think just run, because what can you do if they're already perfect? And they can't, obviously they can't possibly grow, and so that's their limitation. Their limitation is they kind of want to box themselves in so that they can keep people out, so that they feel secure and safe in whether it's wealth, power, position, authority, whatever it is that they have going on for them. And really the only true power that I've ever experienced in the world, and this is again just my perception, my experience, the only true power that exists is the power of honesty. Really, the power that you are, no matter what happens, you trust that just by being truthful and honest all the time, that you're going to be okay. Because most people, the reason people are dishonest, and they either try and protect or defend themselves, or they attack because they feel like they're being seen or not being seen. If you can just be completely honest about who you are all the time, then you're never going to be afraid of anything. You'll never have to worry about anything, because A, you won't have to try and remember lies that you've told, and B, people know what they get when they're with you. And I believe the lost power in this planet, or the lost quality, and it's getting more and more lost, is integrity. Because I believe in working with people that I can shake their hand and we have an agreement, and then I know that person's going to honor that agreement, because that's how I live my life. Of course, that doesn't always happen, but I kind of now start to attract those people in my life. Like my business partner in one of my businesses, I actually hadn't met him when I originally went into business, but I kind of got to know him over 6 months, and we've been in business now for 10 years in one of my businesses. And honestly, it's never crossed my mind that this guy, and I don't even know what he does. Like, he runs one part of the business, it's all him. I have no idea. I don't know what money it makes, none of that. It's all him. And I'm completely at peace and trusting. And literally, he's like, I would trust him with anything in my life, anything. I could leave him with family, friends, literally, he's that kind of caliber guy. So they're the kind of people I attract, because that's what I give. And I believe we get what we give. And likewise, he feels the same about me. We have no legal agreement. So I'm trying to create new paradigms in my world, that I work within, and the people that I meet. I'm actually instilling these qualities by giving them space to develop those qualities, both in my teams that I work with, and I call employees teams, not employees. They're team members. They're actually valuable members of my business. And in fact, I kind of look at them more lovingly than I do my customers, because even though the customers make the money, it's the team that drives the business. And if the team feel that connection, and we have a culture of people that kind of live above the line, which is the culture that I develop in my business, all these things that I'm talking about are part of that culture, the qualities that we can all bring out in each other, then it fosters a developmental paradigm where we're all helping each other to rise. And I believe that's the new conscious business model that's coming. That is here. It's been here for a while. There are companies doing it out there. This is not me creating that. But I kind of want to even take that further, where we can do handshake agreements with our employees, or team members, with our team members, and with all the people that we come in contact with. We can elevate our integrity to the point where our word has meaning, instead of these days where people say all sorts of things. They have no concept of following through on that. They're just saying that to please you, or to keep you quiet, or to shut you up. Yeah. So yeah, look, there's some of my thoughts around how we can, some of the qualities that we can bring out too. But the sacrifice in all of that, of course, is we have to be prepared to be vulnerable and seen as being authentic and real, and who we are, not this, pie in the sky unicorn that's got everything going, that's got their act together. No.
I think vulnerability is the superpower.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the excuse me. I think it is one of the most sexy traits you can have, because if you're being vulnerable, you are walking in integrity. I mean, if you're able to do that, you show me someone who's walking in integrity, and you will see a vulnerable person, and not vulnerable in a weakness, but vulnerable in power.
Exactly.
I mean, we've got it mixed up.
Exactly.
We've got the idea of, if we're vulnerable, if we take that mask off, and we let someone know we're a hot mess, then they're not going to want to do business with us. But I'm telling you from experience, that's the opposite of the truth, because everyone who runs with me knows I'm a hot mess and a princess. And, and I am very much open about, I get lost everywhere I go. You don't want to hire me to do GPS. Like, that's not the thing you want to hire me for. But the thing that I do is amazing. But it's okay that I have a hot mess, geography wise. I have to ask every time, and I feel terrible. But time zones absolutely spank me, because I had to ask you when we started, okay, is it nighttime, or is it daytime? Is it what time? Because you're in Brisbane. I'm going to see if I can say it right. Brisbane?
Yes, perfect. Brisbane, perfect.
And so, I'm in Texas.
Yeah.
We're in two different time zones, way far away time zones.
Yeah.
That's not my strength.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me less brilliant in business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me, but when I tell you about those parts, it also makes me back to that place of, I don't want you to put me on a pedestal, because I know I will fall off.
Yeah.
And I don't want people trying to kill me either, like you said.
Yeah. Look, I've been on a pedestal in the past, and I got to tell you, it's not fun. I burnt my pedestal in a really big fashion. I just had to do it. But once I realized that was going on in my business, I literally burned the pedestal and started from scratch. Yeah. It's a very powerful lesson, but it was necessary.
And on social media, this is one of the things I definitely want to touch on before we, finish this topic, is on social media, you can be deemed a star, a Facebook celebrity. And I do have people that come and talk to me that have seen me on Facebook that I've never met before. I've never had any interaction before, but they recognize me because and it's not hard to recognize me with my red lipstick and my silliness and chasing puppies and, all of the things that I am. But it does have side to it, though, that can be, I want to warn everybody also, and that is people get it in their head you are some kind of a celebrity. And I've had stalkers.
Yeah.
I've had in very scary situations, and I can't do the things that I did before now because I mean, you can't take it back. I think that's another sacrifice I would like to touch on is you cannot take back your success, basically. No matter how much of a hot mess or no matter how much of a vulnerable position you take, you also will have instances where you have sacrificed some of your personal life to do these kinds of things, to do things on social media, to do things in business in a big way.
And that kind of sacrifice too, and I think it's a really good point you bring up, that kind of sacrifice that we make for our calling, for the service that we are doing, for me, it's for my vision, my mission, my message that I'm bringing to the world. There is that side, but on the other side of the coin, there are sacrifices to where we can go, who we can hang out with, at various times because of different people's motivations around what their intent is to want to spend time with us. And for me, that makes me more mindful then of the people that I'm associating with, and also more mindful of, I've done a lot of work on reading into people and learning about human psychology, and so I can quickly understand where someone's coming from and get I don't have to wait hours. Within minutes, actually, I can tell where somebody's coming from. And you're right, we lose that anonymity, we do lose a lot of things. So there's a lot of sacrifices. It's not quite as safe everywhere you go at times. For me, I've gone and learned martial arts. I've been doing that now for 14 years. And while I feel safe in a lot of environments, there are still going to be times where that's not going to save me if something does go does go pear-shaped. But I think the important part to understand here, for me, those things aren't a sacrifice really, because I actually don't have a choice anymore about what I do with my life. I actually don't. I'm unemployable. I will never have a job again. And I love what I do so much. Like I got up at 7 a.m. this morning. It's now nearly midnight here. I was up at 7 a.m. and I'm still working now. But it's not work. You get to a point where what you do and who you are become the same. And when that happens, and a lot of people say, oh, what about work-life balance? You're sacrificing so much. And when are you ever going to get there? I get this all the time. When are you ever going to get there and slow down and stop and enjoy what you're doing? And it's really hard, but I have to say the same sentence to everybody over and over and over, like constantly repeating. But I don't work. I stopped working a long time ago. Maybe 13 years ago, I stopped working because I love what I do so much. There's nothing else I want to do. Wherever I am, I'm working. Whoever I'm with, I'm working. I'm sitting at a restaurant talking to the waitress who's delivering me food. And all of a sudden, she's talking about her problems and her life and her issues and challenges. And I'm helping her with that. Why did that come up? Because that's what I'm there for. That's what I'm in service for. Of course it's going to come up. It's going to come up anywhere. When I go to parties, I don't drink and do all those ridiculous things. It seem to attract those people that are going through stuff. And I help them to find more peace and calm and joy and a place of clarity again. That's what I do wherever I am. And so I'm just thrilled with that. And yeah, those other things that look like, oh, wow, there's this issue, that issue. So be it. I have no choice anymore. So really for me, I in the beginning, there was a lot of sacrifices with time, with money. I've spent over $500,000 on personal development training, $500,000 over a 10-year period. I added it all up, give or take a few dollars. And that money I've made back so many more times, but it didn't look that way when I was spending my first $5,000 on a program that I went into debt for, and I had no idea how I was going to repay that. I trusted, and I just went and I did it. And I had faith that I'd figure a way to make more money so I could keep moving forward. And it always worked out because my heart was in the right place. So what looks like sacrifices oftentimes ends up becoming blessings and blessings and just the most tremendous opportunities for growth. but it always does look like sacrifice, because we're letting go of the old. We're letting go of a lot of the illusion of safety that so many people carry around. I'm safe because I got money in the bank. I'm safe because I've got a wife or a husband. I'm safe because I've got a job. No, there is no safety. No, there actually isn't any safety. It's all illusion. It may look safe, but we all know the jobs can end tomorrow. A relationship can end tomorrow. Something really bad can happen tomorrow. But also at the same time, if we're not living under that illusion that we've got something to lose, rather we're living fully right now in this moment. We're diving in and we're living really fully to our full potential. We're never going to think about what we've got to lose, or that we've got, we're safe and secure. We're too busy living. We're too busy thriving, and we're too busy helping and serving and contributing and having an impact in our life and the lives of others around us. That to me is when we're on fire. That to me is when all the sacrifices we make to learn about ourselves and to whatever it is you want to do with your life, all those sacrifices you do to make that work, that's when it all becomes worth it. Every single book you read, course you went to, podcast you listened to, teacher you had, friend that supported you, even those that didn't support you, even the cynics in our lives, they're great people because they push us. They give us energy. We go, no, yeah, stop you. I'm going to do it anyway. So it brings up the rebel in us and we go, yeah, say what you want. I'm still going that way, but you need to go that way. No, I'm going that way. Thank you. So I use that energy. I take that juice and I make myself move even further. So I also bless them and I thank them, because the cynics and the naysayers and those people that want to try and pull you back to where they think you belong, I don't have a negative about that. I actually use that energy and go, thank you, and it propels me further forward.
Oh, I so agree with you. I think my haters, like, they get a tag, but I appreciate them because they actually make me better.
Yeah.
They, and sometimes they're right about what they're saying.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Sometimes it's something I really need to change up because maybe there's a perception I'm putting off that's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome when we get any kind of feedback. We need to, see why that feedback's coming.
Our ego likes to think it has everything figured out all the time, and I separate us from the ego. So there's an inner me, and then there's an ego me. We all are the same. Freud talked about it. Freud spoke about it. And the ego is a trickster. So the ego will always say, "Hey, man, you're great. You've got it together. It's all cool," and yet, on the inside, we're falling apart. On the inside, we're crumbling, but we're holding on, we're holding it down, we're holding on to our life, pretending that everything's great and everything's okay. And the ego is telling us it is, but we know it isn't. Deep down inside, we know it's not right. We're not right on some level. Something's not working. But I find that one of the biggest things I've had to learn to overcome the ego, is humility, because the ego and humility don't go together. When you're in the ego, humility kind of it doesn't want you to be humble, because when you become humble, it means you've got to be vulnerable, and it means you've got to be honest, and it means you've got to be truthful about yourself and how you really are and what's really happening, how you really feel, what you really think, what's really going on, your fears, your doubts, your shames, all those things. What's really going on inside you? And it's not that you have to walk around telling everybody that all the time, because hey, that just then becomes its own issue. But it's that no longer do those wounds, and no longer do those kind of hot embers that you're holding on to, those issues inside you that you're terrified people are going to find out about you. People see them anyway. Yes. We just think they don't. But if people aren't stupid, people always pick up on what's going on for us. They just don't want to say it because they've got their issues as well, and they don't want theirs seen. So we're all pretending we don't see anything, but we all do know, and we know it. So the sacrifice there is to just let go, practice it every day, just 5 minutes a day, completely let your ego go and walk around as if you are a Gandhi, as if you're somebody that's just really humble, really, really humble, and you're just really present and humble and truthful and honest, and you're completely going to be vulnerable and open and honest. And just do it for 5 minutes and then see how it goes. and practice humility, because humility is something that is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's not the false humility. Oh, yes, I'm a billionaire and I give away $100 million. I'm very humble. No, it's not the false humility. I mean, yeah, you can be a billionaire and be humble, but it's not the false humility that a lot of people, so that they get a Nobel Peace Prize. It's real humility. And there's a difference in that. There's a difference in the feeling and experience of somebody that's truly being open and honest.
Well, and I'd like to add to that too, that a lot of people don't realize that humility has got two sides, as far as, and pride has two sides. It's being more than we are, or thinking more than we are, or thinking less than. Because if we are called to do something and we're putting that down, that's not humility either. Like, correct. People do get into the false thing of, oh, well, I'm just this or that. That's not humility either. It's walking confidently in who you are and not requiring other people to, to bow to that, and not requiring other people to be anything than what they are.
Exactly. Or trying to force them to be anything than what they are. And going back to my story of when I lost my job and that was the bottom, kind of like I bottomed out in my life. The reason that happened, my lesson in all that, as I discovered, as I went on my journey of personal and self-discovery, I discovered that it was actually my arrogance that had created the life that I had, a successful job, travel, friends, but all that came from arrogance. Mm-hmm. I never saw it because I was in it. I was living it. I thought I was being confident and strong and charismatic and, people loved me. But that was because I was arrogant, and I used that arrogance in my relationships. I used that in my job. I used it just to enjoy life. It was a strong personality trait that I never actually thought about, never occurred to me, but I was arrogant. When I discovered that, the sacrifice I had to make was to let that go. And when I started letting that identity of the arrogant me go, I was a mess. I was a complete mess, because what was left was, who am I? If I'm not this arrogant, flamboyant, gregarious, go-get-em guy, who am I? Now, arrogance is also okay. It's a part of who we are. It's not that we're meant to judge that and push it away. It's that we're meant to be aware of it and just use it when we need to. Like, as a public speaker, you need to use arrogance because you're talking to a crowd. You can't sit there as a victim and go, oh, please don't look at me. I love you all, but I'm scared. No, you can't fall into the victim. You have to step up and be, just step up and be seen and heard and so on. And that takes arrogance. And so that's okay. But I had to learn to be humble. I had to learn humility. And so I was put on this journey of having no money, nowhere to go, no friends, blah, blah, blah. I had to go on this journey of knocking on doors to get money to even eat and to sleep somewhere, because I had nothing. And so I had to, for 6 months, that's how I lived. And that was a lot of humility. I had to knock on people's doors, say, hey, do you need your lawn mowed or your windows washed or some yard work done? Because, I didn't even have the confidence to get a job, but I had the humility to go and ask for help. And so that started to teach me about humility. And there's a whole other journey opened up around, I started working with sick people 6 months later, really sick people with cancer and disease in these aged care homes. And I actually was led there, and I was working there pretty much for nothing, but that took me to another level of humility. So that was kind of my lesson. And I think it's a great one, because that was the sacrifice I had to make to become whole, to become real, to become authentic, and to find my purpose, passion, and my true inner power. I had to learn humility. That was what was missing.
I think for people like you and I, we have the extremes because we're extreme. Yeah. We don't have just tiny lessons. I woke up one day and found myself with 2 small children, and I was homeless.
Wow.
And I had to put my babies to bed on a concrete floor on boxes. And I was sitting over them, protecting them, and just falling completely apart, because how did my life get there? Yeah. Like, how did that happen? I had left an abusive relationship, and how did that, happen? I'm not supposed to be in that situation. And that was, I think, a form of arrogance for me, is I had to realize that any of us can be there, and that being there was not really the problem. Being there and thinking that I was above that was the problem, because really the truth was we all are, um, we need to be grateful for what we have, whatever it is. Like if it's little or much, we have a responsibility with what we have, and we have, the responsibility of stewarding whatever we have. But, it is really something that I look back on now and think, and it sounds crazy, but I'm grateful for that moment. I'm grateful for that, opening my eyes to so much more, because had it not been that extreme, I wouldn't have paid attention.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn, and hard-headed, and I think everything in my life has to be like really drastic for me to pay attention. And now today at 51, I'm very intuitive. It's taken a long time to get to the point where I recognize things so quickly now. It's like that person is not even existing anymore. That was back then. But it took some extreme things to get me to the place I am today. And I'm thankful I'm where I am. I'm thankful for being able to wake up every morning and serve the awesome people we do.
Yeah. And see, it's through that sacrifice that you made. And by the way, thank you for sharing that story. I didn't know that story. I've never heard that before. I was feeling that so much in my stomach. My stomach was like all in knots as you were talking. It's like, wow, I could really feel the intensity. Well, I was feeling that. So that brought up for me these really intense feelings in my stomach. So yeah, gosh, man, I didn't know that. Wow, that's powerful. But it's such a powerful story. And so, this topic that we brought up tonight, we've just opened the lid. We've just opened the lid. And in all honesty, to me, the bottom line of sacrifice is we have to be willing to sacrifice who we think we are at any given moment. Because if we cling to any idea that we've got our stuff together, that we're all okay, and we are okay. At one level, we are always okay. But on another level, if we're in denial, if we're deluding ourselves, and we're resisting change, where change is obviously needed, that's when we need to make the sacrifice. We need to be willing to let go of what we're clinging to about ourselves, that we think is true, that we think is real. I call those old beliefs, limiting beliefs, negative beliefs, just those kind of historical ideas about ourselves that we're carrying around that are being asked to be let go of. And the sacrifice there is we've got to be willing to be in a space of not knowing for a while. So the greatest challenge I've ever faced on my path of growth is that space of I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I am. And actually, I can't even really remember anymore where I've been. All I feel now is that I'm in this space of uncertainty. But I've learned to love that space. I've learned to love the unknown, and I've learned to love challenges because if you can just sit in uncertainty and just sit in not knowing, the knowing comes. It's just a matter of trust. And the sacrifice there is to try not to control things so much that you miss the opportunity of what life is sending you to help you to move forward and to become the best version of yourself, which only happens when you shed away the layers of what's not true and what's not needed anymore. Because we carry all this baggage from our past to keep us safe, to keep us sure, to keep us positive. But underneath that, we're falling apart anyway. So you have to let yourself fall apart so you can be rebuilt from the inside out.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a very good point to make. Is it really is the inside. It's the inside that we need to work on so much more than the outside, because you can eat right and you can exercise and you can put your makeup on and you can fix your hair.
You got to do that this morning, the makeup.
Where is your red lipstick?
I know, gosh, seriously. Sack my stylist.
You can do all of that and still be a miserable person on the inside that is not following what they need to be following for their life. And so I think inside out is exactly, we need to work on our inside so that we can be successful on the outside, whatever that looks like for us.
Success starts and finishes on the inside. It's never what you have, it's who you are.
Mm.
One of my business mentors, he said, what is a millionaire? And I said, well, someone who's got $1 million. He said, no. He said, what is a millionaire? I said, someone who's got $1 million in the bank and they make $1 million a year. He said, no. Okay. I said, well, I don't know. What is a millionaire? This is when I just started out in business. And he said, it is somebody who can make $1 million anytime they want because that's who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They are a person that can make $1 million because they've done it. And they have no doubt that they can do it again. They are a millionaire. That's part of their identity.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if they have $1 million or not. They can create $1 million from nothing because they've done it and they know how to do it, and they have no doubt. Yeah. So he said it's somebody who they are. That is part of their identity.
I was offered. I love that you shared that because I was offered quite a large sum of money at one point when I was young, and I told them no. I turned it down. And the biggest thing that I told them then, and it had to have come from the inside out because I wasn't smart enough to know this then. But I told them no, because if they gave me $1 million and I lost it, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But if I learned to make my own $1 million and I lost it, I could make another one.
Yeah.
And that philosophy has been like probably 30 plus years of my life.
Yep.
You can't take what I know away from me.
No.
You can't take away my ability to do that. Even if you took away the $1 million, you can't take away my ability to get another one.
No. Like another example of that is my ability. I have an ability now after years of retraining my mind. So emotions and thoughts used to distract me and cause anxiety and all those kind of things. That hasn't happened for about 12 years. So now I have this inner calmness, and whenever I want, I'm also busy. I use my mind for my business and for working with people, but I'm literally, my mind is really, it's being used the way I want it to be used. It's not using me. In other words, my mind's not manipulating my emotions and my reactions in life. I'm choosing how I'm using my mind. Most people are being used by their mind, which they're not aware of, but they are. If someone can say something to you and that causes you to react in a defensive or attacking way, you're not in charge of your life. Your subconscious mind is. And that's a very powerful lesson. So I now have the ability to actually step back from my mind, witness my thoughts, be aware of my emotions, and then I choose to stay calm. And this has really served me in martial arts. This is where I kind of learned it, as well as meditation, but I learned it more in martial arts, because now when I'm under attack by several people, which I practice in my martial art, which is Aikido, when I'm under attack by several people, I do a process which is called relaxed awareness. I stay calm and centered, and it's like there's a cyclone going around you, which is your thoughts and feelings. But in the center, I'm in the center, and I'm aware of those things. I get to choose what level of participation I have in them, if I want to at all. That is a skill. That is an ability that any person can actually create for themselves. That's another level of sacrifice too, because what you've got to sacrifice in that instance to become calm and a calm centered person who is focused and very clear in your mind and in the way you present yourself, and the confidence you have, which doesn't come from what you have and what you do. It's an inner confidence. The sacrifice there is, again, is a retraining of the relationship you have with your mind and body. And I believe that if everybody just does a little bit every day to step back from their mind and start to question and challenge their emotions instead of get caught up in them, start to buy into them less and less and less and less, they'll become more conscious, more aware, and they'll actually have, it'll fix a lot of the issues in their life, a lot of their health issues, a lot of their relationship challenges, all those problems that they were having internally will start to settle down, because they're settling down. They're creating a new relationship within themselves, with their mind and body. But you need to stop and start to look in instead of constantly being pulled from the outside, manipulated and pulled and distracted, so that your energy is being sucked here, being sucked there, being sucked there. Bring your energy back, center it, self-contain it, then choose where your energy goes. And your life suddenly becomes so much more powerful, but not in a physical power, but in a clarity, in a focus, in a relaxed way.
Well, I can tell you, I do something that is probably on a much lower level than what you're talking about, but there's one thing I do always in a business situation where maybe there's a fire to put out, and I don't mean like a real fire, but something going on, some kind of a little mess or some kind of a crisis or something. The first thing I do is decide what my feelings are and what the facts are, because my facts never hardly ever match the other one. The feelings are emotional. I'm hurt that this customer did that, or I'm hurt that this client did this. But the fact is they really didn't do what I thought they did, because if you take away all the emotions, they did what was best for their company, or they did whatever it is. It can be so minor, but we make it so big, and we can lose our peace over things like that. And that's one of my little princess tricks to to figuring out how I should deal with it, is to make sure that I am separating how I'm feeling about it with what the facts are.
With the facts, yeah. And that's a very powerful emotional intelligence technique that you're talking about there, because you're actually, the main thing you're doing is breaking the pattern of action reaction. So somebody does something, you feel a certain way. That's just a game we all play with each other. I call that social conditioning. And it still happens to me. I still get my buttons triggered. They call it people push your buttons, and it happens. But what we can do is we can catch those feelings. And then, like you said, well, is it true? First of all, what are the facts? Is what my mind and emotions telling me in this story I'm creating in my head, is it actually true? Or do I know what the real facts are? Or do I even know what the truth is for that person? Perhaps I need to investigate and explore what's going on for them. So then it becomes the question. So that question then starts, it starts that emotional journey to dissipate. So I love that strategy. It's very powerful. And it's also one that I'm familiar with. But, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what our strategy is. The point is that if we're willing to make the sacrifice to stop being a puppet to what's going on outside of us and instead start to become the master of our inner world, that's when the game changes. That's when we're and I love this analogy of the puppet, because you can visualize, somebody says or does something, you get this emotion pull called jealousy or resentment or guilt or blame or judgment. You get all these strings being pulled, and you're going around, which is why, if these days people on a text, it's ridiculous, but just a simple text and they go off the deep end. Oh my God, look at what they wrote on. This is not even a real person. It's a faceless, nameless person hiding behind an IP address. Who are they? Well, the answer is, who cares? if you don't care, it's not going to matter. It's really simple. It blows my mind away. People could say anything about me and I would just not even take it seriously, because unless that person's in my face, it's not real. It's just not, but everybody can see that comment. And I'm probably going to be dead in 10, 20, 50, however many years. Will it matter if I'm dead? No. That's the key. If something's going to matter when you're dead, it matters. How many things are going to matter when you're dead?
See, for me, what you're saying is exactly like one of my success qualifiers. I know I'm successful in an area if I'm free.
Yeah.
If I have freedom in an area, and people talk about people all the time, but you know what? That's not even my business. It's not my business to know what somebody's saying about me. My business is to do what I'm supposed to be doing.
That is one of my favorite quotes. It's none of my business what you think of me, unless I make it my business. And if I make it my business, I'm going to make myself sick. So why would I want to do that? So if you're watching now, I would just think about that saying. It's none of my business what anybody thinks about me. And it isn't, because they're free to think what they want. It's got no bearing. And if they put it in your face, then you can deal with that. But deal with it in a conscious, assertive way, rather than, going into the old habit of blame and attack and defend and all that nonsense. Instead, find a more conscious, assertive way to be around that. And really, 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 if you're okay with who you are, then what does it matter what anyone thinks? Really.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. We can just go on for days, I think. We're going to have to stop. We're like 2 times, like we're double the time we intended to be. But I am so thankful that you said yes to this, because I feel like you bring such a great depth to this topic, and really to any topic. But, this is powerful. When you can hear this and learn from this, you can really change everything.
And we had nothing prepared around this. Neither of us had any. This is the key. We're talking here, just 2 people coming from our own experience. I like to think that I'm coming from my heart. So this is what happens when you get together with like-minded people and you just share you. Honestly, if I could say anything about sacrificing, stop sharing stuff that's irrelevant, that's not important, that's gossip, that's tabloid crap. Share more of you, and hang out with people that will do the same, that will receive you and that will share them too. The more of us that can do that, that can start to connect and share and open, and educate and learn. Because I'm learning from Kim, she's learning from me. Like I had a beautiful experience with her when she was sharing a moment ago. That touched me so deeply, and I know that that's going to be unraveling during the night. I don't even know what that triggered in me, but it was just a moment of total vulnerability for me. It was so beautiful, but I wouldn't have had that experience if I hadn't showed up and been prepared to learn, to listen and give and receive. So please, that's the sacrifice that I'd like to share with you as the last thought. And it's not really a sacrifice. It's an opportunity to just share you, be seen, be heard, be loved for who you are, and for you to do the same for others. Imagine a world, a school, a family where that happens. Imagine that.
Such good stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. If you're listening, we're going to put in the comments how to get in contact with Michael again, because I want you definitely to be able to follow him and get connected. We are both giving people access to get connected, so you have no excuse if you're doing this alone. Don't use that as a crutch, because there are people with tips and tricks and love. We love people. So be sure and get connected. This is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team. We're here helping you create sexy businesses for sexy lives, like this amazing man, Michael Atma. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Love you.
Yeah. Thank you too. Thank you, everybody.